I'm Dana K. White. I'm the author of Decluttering at the Speed of Life, and I'm here today to tell you a decluttering story. The moral of the story is the bigger the thing, the bigger hassle it is to declutter it. So my husband and I are having some work done on our bathroom, and during the, chaos time when things were being torn out, my contractor sent me a text and said, "Hey, I'm having a dumpster delivered to your house." And my first thought was, "Oh, a dumpster." And I immediately texted him and said, "Is there any chance I could throw a recliner in the dumpster?" And he said, "Sure." And I was so excited because a recliner is big. This was an extra big recliner. And because it was an extra big recliner that I wanted to get rid of, it was a huge weight on me because it's not easy to get rid of big things, big unwieldy things that tend to go and open up when you're trying to move them, right? So I had gotten this recliner in the midst of my recliner obsession, and I had gotten one used that was perfect, and it's our favorite one that we have. And then this one I saw on Facebook Marketplace. This has been a couple years ago. And I thought, oh, that's such a pretty recliner. And it's like high quality leather, and I'm so excited. Okay, I am going to get that recliner. And then I sat in it at the place where I could have said, no, I'm not bringing this home. But I sat in it and thought, that's a little wonky, but it's okay. It's okay. It'll be worth it. And then I got it home, and my family all went, "Oh, a nice new recliner." And then they would sit in it and go, "Ugh, I don't want to sit in that anymore." And then I realized nobody was sitting in this recliner because nobody wanted to sit in it because it was uncomfortable, because it was wonky. It was broken, right? And so I thought, oh, I've got to get rid of this thing. And I thought, well, I'll move it into this other space where we don't sit in there as often. Maybe it'll be okay in there for some reason. I don't know. Well, we don't sit in there as often, and no one wanted to sit in it. And so it turned into a dumping ground, and it just became this bane of my existence. And every time I would run into it, like stub my toe or get frustrated or clear it off because it had stuff dumped on it, I would think, I have got to get rid of this thing. But getting rid of big stuff is a big hassle. So I took advantage of this opportunity to declutter. We lugged that thing out, which my husband's back was hurt at the time. But the contractor was like, "Hey, just get it outside and we'll move it over into the dumpster." So I got that out there, and then I thought, well, there's this other recliner that I have that technically does still work. I bought that one new, but that was the one where I learned my lesson, that if it's not real leather, it's gonna end up peeling. So I was like, I'm done covering that one with a blanket. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick that one in here while we have the dumpster. And it's actually possible to get rid of big stuff without it being as big of a hassle as it normally would. And then I had a virtual speaking event. So I was headed out to my office for that, and I saw a ceiling fan that had been taken down out there. And for some reason, it was just laying there in the barn part of my office, which is, connected to my office. And I was like, okay, this is something else. So I sent my husband a text and I said, "Hey, why don't you come out here when I'm done with my event, and you can pick up, and we can pick up the ceiling fan and some other things from in here." So he drove our little doolally out there, and we loaded up the ceiling fan, and then we started looking around and going, what else can we just throw away that maybe otherwise we wouldn't necessarily be thinking was, throw something to throw away, but we have this opportunity now to throw it in this dumpster. And so we took advantage of that. So we had kind of a good time walking all around going, what is there that there were these wicker chairs that I don't know why, but they were kind of wonky. And every time somebody tried to sit in them, I'd be like, "Oh, no, don't sit in that one." Well, let's just throw them away, right? So we took advantage of this. But the moral of the story is big stuff is a big decluttering hassle. And going through this hassle is painful, makes me regret these choices that I made to bring things in, but it also makes me a lot more conscious of bringing things into my house. I have learned the hard way not to buy used recliners. because they tend to be sold because they're wonky and a little bit broken. And so I have just made this decision. I'd rather not have a recliner than one that I'm pretty confident is either already broken or is going to be broken soon because it's used, right? Like, it's tough because I have kind of an obsession with recliners, but it's tough, and I decided it's not worth it because the hassle of getting rid of it is so difficult. So it makes me look at big things differently. Y'all, when I was selling on eBay, and I was in the height of selling on eBay, way before I started my dislobification process, I remember thinking, oh, if we just had a little land, maybe a storage unit, a barn of some sort. When I would dream about having that, I would dream that I could then get big things from the garage sales that I was obsessed with going to get stuff to sell on eBay. I could get the big stuff and bring it home and then resell it. And I'm thankful that I was not in a position to bring the big stuff home at that time when I was obsessed with the reselling, that I learned my lesson the hard way, that it was hard enough to get rid of the little stuff so that by the time we now are in a space where we have a barn and a lot more space, I'm in a different place where I don't want to bring big stuff home unless I absolutely know that it is worthy of being in my home and is going to be here for a long enough time that when I do have to get rid of it, I won't resent it so much because we got lots and lots of use out of it. So the advice here is to be very cautious of bringing iffy things into your home, especially big iffy things, because the hassle factor is intense with big stuff. It is such a hassle to get rid of big things. The other thing to consider here, though, is that if you're in a position where you have big stuff, multiple big things, rugs, couches, furniture, large play stuff that your kids have outgrown, and then it's just completely, fallen apart outside, whatever. If you have that kind of stuff, it is worth it to rent the dumpster. I mean, the progress that we made in one night, just getting rid of a bunch of different hassle items that we had, and then we stuck those things in that dumpster, and then it was just gone the next morning. And that feeling makes me go, okay, in the future when I have big stuff, it's worth it to hire someone. Y'all, so many different areas have local people that do this. They've made their business to have a dumpster like that, and they'll come and they'll pick up your stuff and take it away. And I know, like, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, this is not necessarily an endorsement of them. Call them, find out exactly what they're gonna do, how it works in your area. But with them, I know one of their things is you just point at the thing and then they take it out. You have to make the decisions. They're not gonna declutter for you as far as making decisions, but you can point at things and say, this is what I want gone, and they will get it out for you. So as hard as it is for those of us who are super frugal, that's often the reason why we have these less than perfect things in our home. It goes against everything in our being to pay someone to get that stuff out. And yet it is so incredibly worth it. The fact that we have the space where that recliner sat once upon a time would be totally worth paying someone to do it. I'm not saying it's not difficult. It is difficult, but it is definitely something to consider if you've got a lot of big stuff, because it's just fact. Big stuff equals big decluttering hassle. Either a physical hassle of you figuring out how to get it done yourself, or financial hassle of having to pay somebody to go and take it out. But it is absolutely worth it for that stuff to be gone. Okay, there's my story. I hope it was helpful. I'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.